Grab your pots and pans. It's time to cook. Don't forget the spatula. This is the aftermath coverage of the VP debate. You have Tim Walz and you also have JD Vance. Let's see who came in as champion. Don't forget to click the links down below to support the channel as well.
Governor Tim Walz and Ohio's Republican Senator J.D. Vance tonight meeting for the first time.
I'm Margaret Brennan. In order to have a thoughtful and civil debate, these are the rules that both campaigns have agreed to. Questions will be directed at one candidate who will have 2 minutes to respond. The other candidate will be allowed 2 minutes for rebuttal. Then each candidate will get another minute to make further points, with an additional 1 minute each at the discretion of the moderator. The primary role of the moderators is to facilitate the debate between the candidates, enforce the rules, and provide the candidates with the opportunity to fact-check claims made by each other.
CBS News reserves the right to mute the candidates' microphones to maintain decorum. We have not shared the questions or topics with the campaigns. The stage is set. Governor, Senator, thank you for...
Now pause. I hope all these rules that they have, they follow, because y'all know what happened on the last debate with the presidential debate. And they asked Trump a certain questions and they asked Kamala certain questions, but it seemed like they was catering to Kamala, knowing that that was her sorority sister, whatever it may be. To me, that's a bias. CNN, y'all so biased. But let's see what, what's this? ABC, let's see what they have to offer. 1, 2, 3. We all know they're part of the same network, but let's continue. Nonetheless, let it begin.
Joining us, let's get started. Tonight, our country is facing several unfolding crises. The Middle East is on the brink of war. Americans are suffering from the catastrophic impact of Hurricane Helene, and now a labor strike as 25,000 dock workers from Maine to Texas are picketing. We're going to begin tonight with the Middle East. Margaret.
Thank you, Nora. Earlier today, Iran launched its largest attack yet on Israel, but that attack failed, thanks to joint U.S. and Israeli defensive action. President Biden has deployed more than 40,000 U.S. military personnel and assets to that region over the past year to try to prevent a regional war. Iran is weakened, but the U.S. still considers it the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world, and it has drastically reduced the time it would take to develop a nuclear weapon. It is down now to 1 or 2 weeks' time. Governor Walz, if you were the final voice in the Situation Room, would you support or oppose a preemptive strike by Israel on Iran? You have 2 minutes.
Well, thank you. And thank you for those joining at home tonight. Let's keep in mind where this started. October 7th, Hamas terrorists massacred over 1,400 Israelis and took prisoners. Israel's ability to be able to defend itself is absolutely fundamental. Getting its hostages back, fundamental, and ending the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. But the expansion of Israel and its proxies is an absolute fundamental necessity for the United States to have the steady leadership there. You saw it experienced today, where along with our Israeli partners and our coalition, able to stop the incoming attack. But what's fundamental here is that steady leadership is going to matter. It's clear, and the world saw it on that debate stage a few weeks ago. A nearly 80-year-old Donald Trump talking about crowd sizes is not what we need in this moment. But it's not just that. It's those that were closest to Donald Trump that understand how dangerous he is when the world is this dangerous. His chief of...
Pause. Look at how my man JD Vance looking at him. Like, stop trying to sneak this Trump and get to the answer in the question. It's called diversion. Why are you trying to deflect the question? Get to the bottom of the question. Answer the question. You giving me Kamala vibes. Smash that like button if you agree. Tell a friend and tell a friend.
Staff John Kelly said that he was the most flawed human being he'd ever met. And both of his secretaries of defense and his national security advisors said he should be nowhere near the White House. Now, the person closest to them, Donald Trump, said he's...
This is pissing me off. Answer the question. What are you going to do? You got Israel on the line. You're going to support him or not? What we going to do? Answer the question. You're wasting my time. Time's ticking. This ain't TikTok. This is not TikTok. You're wasting my time. Tim Walz, and we all know about you and the military thing, what's going on. You talking about you was in the military XYZ. You ain't touch a foot on the ground. You was no foot soldier. You was no foot soldier. Let's continue.
Unfit for the highest office. That was Senator Vance. What we've seen out of Vice President Harris is we've seen steady leadership. We've seen a calmness that is able to draw on the coalitions to bring them together. Understanding that our allies matter. When our allies see Donald Trump turn towards Vladimir Putin, turn towards North Korea, when we start to see that type of fickleness around holding the coalitions together, we will stay committed. And as the Vice President said today we will protect our forces and our allied forces, and there will be consequences.
Governor, your time is up. Senator Vance, the same question. Would you support or oppose a preemptive strike by Israel on Iran? You have 2 minutes.
So, Margaret, I want to answer the question. First of all, thanks, Governor. Thanks to CBS for hosting the debate. And thanks, most importantly, to the American people who are watching this evening and caring enough about this country to pay attention.
One thing about my man, JD Vance, right? He started out cooking. He started out saying, hey, look, such a gentleman. The man said, you know what? Thank you for having me on your platform, but I want to start off with answering the actual question. This man, Tim Walz, answered the question at the last 5 seconds that he had left. All the fluff. We don't need the fluffy blankets. We don't need that right now. We don't need any popcorn. We want the truth as people. Can't you tell? Smash that like button if you want the truth.
To this vice presidential debate. I want to answer the question, but I want to actually give an introduction to myself a little bit because I recognize a lot of Americans don't know who either one of us are. I was raised in a working class family. My mother required food assistance for periods of her life. My grandmother required Social Security help to raise me, and she raised me in part because my own mother struggled with addiction for a big chunk of my early life. I went to college on the GI Bill after I enlisted in the Marine Corps and served in Iraq. And so I stand here asking to be your vice president with extraordinary gratitude for this country, for the American dream that made it possible for me to live my dreams. And most importantly, I know that a lot of you are worried about the chaos in the world and the feeling that the American dream is unattainable. I want to try to convince you tonight over the next 90 minutes that if we get better leadership in the White House, if we get Donald Trump back in the White House, the American dream is going to be attainable once again. Now, to answer this particular question, we have to remember that as much as Governor Walz just accused Donald Trump of being an agent of chaos, Donald Trump actually delivered stability in the world, and he did it by establishing effective deterrence. People were afraid of stepping out of line. Iran, which launched this attack, has received over $100 billion in unfrozen assets thanks to the Kamala Harris administration. What do they use that money for? They use it to buy weapons that they're now launching against our allies, and God forbid, potentially launching against the United States as well. Donald Trump recognized that for people to fear the United States, you needed peace through strength. They needed to recognize that if they got out of line, the United States global leadership would put stability and peace back in the world. Now, you asked about a preemptive strike, Margaret, and I want to answer the question. Look, it is up to Israel what they think they need to do to keep their country safe, and we should support our allies wherever they are when they're fighting the bad guys. I think that's the right approach to take with the Israel question.
Thank you, Senator. Governor Walz, do you care to respond to any of the allegations?
Well, look, Donald Trump was in office. We'll sometimes hear a revisionist history, but when Donald Trump was in office, it was Donald Trump who we had a coalition of nations that had boxed Iran's nuclear program in, the inability to advance it. Donald Trump pulled that program and put nothing else in its place. So Iran is closer to a nuclear weapon than they were before because of Donald Trump's fickle leadership. And when Iran shot down an American aircraft in international airspace, Donald Trump tweeted, because that's the standard diplomacy of Donald Trump. And when Iranian missiles did fall near U.S. troops and they received traumatic brain injuries, Donald Trump wrote it off as headaches. Look, our allies understand that Donald Trump is fickle. He will go to whoever has the most flattery or where it makes sense to him. Steady leadership like you witnessed today, like you witnessed.
Pause. people around the world actually respect Trump. So I don't know. He keeps saying he's fickle. When people see Donald Trump comes in, they actually stands up. When they see a Tim Walz come in, they're not standing up for nothing. When they see Biden come in, they have to escort the man. He's so fragile, damn near about to fall over. So as far as strength and leadership, I think Donald Trump has the strength and leadership. And he also has the business connection. I would much rather somebody from a business that have a business background to actually run the corporation, which is considered the United States of America. Because this is a corporation, right? Rather than someone that's just doing it for political advancement, like the Kamala, like the Tim Walz. Smash that like button if you agree. And if you don't agree, let me know why you don't agree. Hit them comments down below. Let me know.
In April, both Iranian attacks were repelled. Our coalition is strong, and we need the steady leadership that Kamala Harris is providing.
Senator Vance, the U.S. did have a diplomatic deal with Iran to temporarily pause parts of its nuclear program, and President Trump did exit that deal. He recently said, just 5 days ago, the U.S. must now make a diplomatic deal with Iran because the consequences are impossible. Did he make a mistake? You have 1 minute.
Well, first of all, Margaret, diplomacy is not a dirty word, but I think that's something that Governor Walz just said is quite extraordinary. You yourself just said Iran is as close to a nuclear weapon today as they have ever been. And Governor Walz, you blame Donald Trump. Who has been the vice president for the last 3.5 years? And the answer is your running mate, not mine. Donald Trump consistently made the world.
Hey, I need somebody like JD Vance on my team because this man is advanced. This man is, it should be JD Advance. Let me repeat. It should be JD Advance because he just killed the narrator and the people in the ABC News because you see how she asked the question, right? She staged the question as if, let's blame Trump, which means she's siding with, like I say, ABC, CNN, they all part of the same conglomerate. It's like they're siding with the Tim Walz. Little do they know JD Vance is advanced. He said, look, who has been in presidency for the last 3 to 4 to 5 years? Let's just say 3 years, right? Because we understand the terms as a 4-year term. It's you guys president, not mine. So stop trying to reverse engineer and blame Trump for something that he is not even responsible for. Y'all in office right now. What are y'all doing right now? Absolutely nothing.
But more secure. Now, we talk about what the sequence of events that led us to where we are right now, and you can't ignore October the 7th, which I appreciate Governor Walz bringing up. But when did Iran and Hamas and their proxies attack Israel? It was during the administration of Kamala Harris. So Governor Walz can criticize Donald Trump's tweets, but effective, smart diplomacy and peace through strength is how you bring stability back to a very broken world. Donald Trump has already done it once before. Ask yourself at home, when was the last time, I'm 40 years old, when was the last time that an American president didn't have a major conflict break out? The only answer is during the 4 years that Donald Trump was president.
Gentlemen, we have a lot to get to. Nora?
Margaret.
He just spanked the whole entire network. He just spanked the whole entire network. Hey, JD Vance, like I say, put down in the chat, JD Vance, advance. JD Vance, advance. JD Vance is advance.
Thank you. Let's turn now to Hurricane Helene. The storm could become one of the deadliest on record. More than 160 people are dead and hundreds more are missing. Scientists say climate change makes these hurricanes larger, stronger, and more deadly because of the historic rainfall. Senator Vance, according to CBS News polling, 7 in 10 Americans and more than 60% of Republicans under the age of 45 favor the U.S. taking steps to try and reduce climate change. Senator, what responsibility would the Trump administration have to try and reduce the impact of climate change? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Sure. So first of all, let's start with the hurricane, because it's an unbelievable, unspeakable human tragedy. I just saw today actually a photograph of two grandparents on a roof with a 6-year-old child, and it was the last photograph ever taken of them because the roof collapsed and those innocent people lost their lives. And I'm sure Governor Walz joins me in saying our hearts go out to those innocent people, our prayers go out to them, and we want as robust and aggressive as a federal response as we can.
One thing I can say about JD Vance, right? Even through the battle, he's still making sure that the enemy is still heard. This man have moral complex. This man said, look, as far as what's going on, the Democrat or Republican, the storm that just came through, Helena, it hurt a lot of people, and we must have to give a moment of silence for that. So let's give a moment of silence for the people that was lost, right? Send their family, their friends. The only thing that can conquer this is love and togetherness and community, right? So let's just give a moment of silence for that. Because it's needed. Now let's continue.
And get to save as many lives as possible. And then, of course, afterwards, to help the people in those communities rebuild. I mean, these are communities that I love. Some of them I know very personally in Appalachia, all across the Southeast. They need their government to do their job. And I commit that when Donald Trump is president again, the government will put the citizens of this country first when they suffer from a disaster. Now, Nora, you asked about climate change. I think this is a very important issue. Look, a lot of people are justifiably worried about all these crazy weather patterns. I think it's important for us, first of all, to say Donald Trump and I support clean air, clean water. We want the environment to be cleaner and safer. But one of the things that I've noticed some of our Democratic friends talking a lot about is a concern about carbon emissions, this idea that carbon emissions drives all of the climate change. Well, let's just say that's true, just for the sake of argument, so we're not arguing about weird science. Let's just say that's true. Well, if you believe that, what would you want to do? The answer is that you'd want to reshore as much American manufacturing as possible, and you'd want to produce as much energy as possible in the United States of America, because we're the cleanest economy in the entire world. What have Kamala Harris's policies actually led to? More energy production in China, more manufacturing overseas, more doing business in some of the dirtiest parts of the entire world. And when I say that, I mean the amount of carbon emissions they're doing per unit of economic output.
Pause. That's why I support the Trump, because at the end of the day, guess what? Drill, baby, drill. We need factories here, right? We need energy here to redistribute amongst the world. Because if you don't own energy and control energy, you will never, right, surpass. This economy will go up in flames if you don't. Inflation will skyrocket because you have other people telling you what they want you to pay for their services and goods, right? So we have to bring manufacturing back home. We have to bring innovation back home, pioneering back home, just on the home front. Worry about the home first before you worry about what's going on outside. Let me repeat, the United States. Worry about what's going on in your household before you worry about and try to mitigate and dictate what's going on around the world. Now let's continue.
So if we actually care about getting cleaner air and cleaner water, the best thing to do is to double down and invest in American workers and the American people. And unfortunately, Kamala Harris has done exactly the opposite.
Governor Walz, you have 2 minutes to respond.
Well, we got close to an agreement because all those things are happening. Look, first of all, it is a horrific tragedy with this hurricane. And my heart goes out to the folks that are down there in contact with the governors. I serve as co-chair of the Council of Governors as we work together on these emergency managements. Governors know no partisanship. They work together. So all of the governors and the emergency responders are on the ground. Those happen on the front end. The federal government comes in, makes sure they're there that we recover. But we're still in that phase where we need to make sure that they're staying there, staying focused. Now, look, coming back to the climate change issue, there's no doubt this thing roared onto the scene faster and stronger than anything we've seen. Senator Vance has said that there's a climate problem in the past. Donald Trump called it a hoax, and then joked that these things would make more beachfront property to be able to invest in. What we've seen out of the Harris administration now, the Biden-Harris administration, is we've seen this investment. We've seen massive investments, the biggest in global history that we've seen in the Inflation Reduction Act, has created jobs all across the country. 2,000 in Jeffersonville, Ohio, taking the EV technology that we invented and making it here. 200,000 jobs across the country. The largest solar manufacturing plant in North America sets in Minnesota. But my farmers know climate change is real. They've seen 500-year droughts, 500-year floods back to back. But what they're doing is adapting, and this has allowed them to tell me, look, I harvest corn, I harvest soybean, and I harvest wind. We are producing more natural gas and more oil at any time than we ever have. We're also producing more clean energy. So the solution for us is to continue to move forward, that climate change is real. Reducing our impact is absolutely critical, but this is not a false choice. You can do that at the same time you're creating the jobs that we're seeing all across the country. That's exactly what this administration has done. We are seeing us becoming an energy superpower for the future, not just the current. And that's what absolutely makes sense. And then we start thinking about how do we mitigate these disasters?
Thank you. Senator, I want to give you an opportunity to respond there. The governor mentioned that President Trump has called climate change a hoax. Do you agree?
Well, look, what the president has said is that if the Democrats, in particular Kamala Harris and her leadership, if they really believe that climate change is serious, what they would be doing is more manufacturing.
Pause. Because like I say, this channel is biased as well, right? Because listen to how they're picking the points. Why when the narrator asks a question, they say nothing about, hey, Kamala said this and Kamala do that. They're directing all their energy on what Trump isn't doing. Let me repeat. They're playing the blame game, and you could tell because she highlighted that point. Are you going to highlight any points on Kamala? If I don't hear one point highlighted, right, this ain't equal. This isn't right. Because they're doing the same thing CNN is doing. Once again, it's JD Vance against ABC and Tim Walz at the same time. What is this? They consider this democracy.
In more energy production in the United States of America, and that's not what they're doing. So clearly, Kamala Harris herself doesn't believe her own rhetoric on this. If she did, she would actually agree with Donald Trump's energy policies. Now, something Governor Walz said I think is important to touch upon, because when we talk about clean energy, I think that's a slogan that often the Democrats will use here. And I'm talking, of course, about the Democratic leadership. And the real issue is that if you're spending hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars of American taxpayer money on solar panels that are made in China, number one, you're going to make the economy dirtier. We should be making more of those solar panels here in the United States of America. Some of them are, Tim, but a lot of them are being made overseas in China.
First of all, I tell you these biased things. ABC, you on my bad list now. I thought his mic is supposed to be muted. What happened to people following the rules that was set? At the beginning of the channel, they said this and they said this, right? They said that we're going to mute the other person from not talking and we're going to unmute the other person so they could talk, whoever had the floor. JD Vance has the floor right now. Mr. Advance has the floor right now. Why did Tim Walz just interrupt the man? Can anyone point that out? Why did Tim Walz? This made me don't want to watch the debate. Because you're not even playing by the rules that's set for the arena. Therefore, once again, this is a biased channel. ABC, CNN. Y'all looking very weird right now. Y'all trying to, as if you're programming people to say, you know what, this is what we want the focus point to be. Now, we understand that they're on you guys' platforms, right? But come on, it's a public platform. Peep game, smash that like button. Let me know what you thought about that. If you're trying to prove a point, right, you need no interruption. First of all, you're trying to prove a point. You're having a conversation with someone and someone keep on trying to interrupt you. Can you please be quiet? It's called cállate la boca. Shh. Listen with your ears, not with your mouth. Listen with your ears and you can see with your eyes, right? And I could see clearly that this is a biased channel. Once again, his mic is supposed to be muted. Can somebody put his mic? Tim Walz's mic is supposed to be muted. Why isn't it muted? Follow the rules. What's the point of the laws if you're gonna break them?
especially the components that go into those solar panels. So if you really want to make the environment cleaner, you've got to invest in more energy production. We haven't built a nuclear facility, I think, one in the past 40 years.
Senator.
Natural gas, we got to invest more in it. Kamala Harris has done the opposite. That's raised energy prices and also meant that we're doing
Senator,
worse by
your
the
time
climate.
is up. Governor, would you like to respond?
Well, look, we're producing more natural gas than we ever have. There's no moratorium on that. We're producing more oil, but the folks know, and like I said, again, these are not liberal folks. These are not folks that are Green New Deal folks. These are farmers that have been drought one year, massive flooding the next year. They understand that it makes sense. Look, our number one export cannot be topsoil from erosion from these massive storms. We saw it in Minnesota this summer. And thinking about how do we respond to that, we're thinking ahead on this. And what Kamala Harris has been able to do in Minnesota, we're starting to weatherproof some of these things. The infrastructure law that was passed allows us to think about mitigation in the future. How do we make sure that we're protecting by burying our power lines? How do we make sure that we're protecting lakefronts and things that we're seeing more and more of? But to call it a hoax and to take the oil company executives to Mar-a-Lago, say, give me money for my campaign, and I'll let you do whatever you want. We can be smarter about that. And an all above energy policy is exactly what she's doing, creating those jobs right here.
Governor, your time is up. The overwhelming consensus among scientists is that the Earth's climate is warming at an unprecedented rate. Margaret?
Thank you, Nora. We're going to turn now to immigration. The crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border consistently ranks as one of the top issues for American voters. Senator Vance, your campaign is pledging to carry out the largest mass deportation plan in American history and to use the U.S. military to do so. Could you be more specific about exactly how this will work? For example, would you deport parents who have entered the U.S. illegally and separate them from any of their children who were?
Can the man answer the question instead of you trying to put things out there? Let the man answer the question. Like I say, this is a biased channel as well. Put ABC as bias in the chat. Put ABC as bias in the chat, and tell a friend to tell a friend that ABC is bias in the chat.
Were born on U.S. soil. You have 2 minutes.
So first of all, Margaret, before we talk about deportations, we have to stop the bleeding. We have a historic immigration crisis because Kamala Harris started and said that she wanted to undo all of Donald Trump's border policies. 94 executive orders suspending deportation.
Mr. Vance, let me give the people a reference point with that. Look up CHNV, right? Parole program. Look at who endorsed that program. So if you got all these immigrants here, they're not even coming here on foot. They're being flown over. They're in ships and everything. How did they get on the airplanes? How did they aboard the ship? It's because they getting paid to do it. Also, it's because this law is set for them to do it under the Kamala and Harris, the Kamala and Biden administration. Y'all can look it up yourself. Once again, the reference point is CHNV, and this is for the Colombians, the Hondurans, the Nicaraguans, and the Venezuelans, right? They have a special program for them. And y'all wonder why crime rate is so high. And crime rate over there is dramatically low. Come on, man. Organized confusion. Let's get it.
Decriminalize illegal aliens, massively increasing the asylum fraud that exists in our system. That has opened the floodgates. And what it's meant is that a lot of fentanyl is coming into our country. I had a mother who struggled with opioid addiction and has gotten clean. I don't want people who are struggling with addiction to be deprived of their second chance because Kamala Harris let in fentanyl into our communities at record levels. So you've got to stop the bleeding. You've got to re-implement Donald Trump's border policies, build the wall, re-implement deportations. And that gets me to your point, Margaret, about what do we actually do? So we've got 25 million illegal aliens who are here in the country. What do we do with them? I think the first thing that we do is we start with the criminal migrants. About 1 million of those people have committed some form of crime in addition to crossing the border illegally. I think you start with deportations on those folks. And then I think you make it harder for illegal aliens to undercut the wages of American workers. A lot of people will go home if they can't work for less than minimum wage in our own country. And by the way, that'll be really good for our workers who just want to earn a fair wage for doing a good day's work. And the final point, Margaret, is you ask about family separation. Right now in this country, Margaret, we have 320,000 children that the Department of Homeland Security has effectively lost. Some of them have been sex trafficked. Some of them hopefully are at homes with their families. Some of them have been used as drug trafficking mules. The real family separation policy in this country is unfortunately Kamala Harris's wide open southern border. And I'd ask my fellow Americans to remember, when she came into office, she said she was going to do this. Real leadership would be saying, you know what, I screwed up. We're going to go back to Donald Trump's border policies. I wish that she would do that. It would be good for all of us.
Governor, do you care to respond to any of the specific allegations, including that the vice president is, quote, letting in fentanyl and using kids as drug mules, among other things regarding children?
The drug mule is not true, but I will say about this, about the fentanyl, because this is a crisis of this, the opioid crisis. And the good news on this is the last 12 months saw the largest decrease in opioid deaths in our nation's history, 30% decrease in Ohio, but there's still more work to do. But let's go back to this on immigration. Kamala Harris was the attorney general of the largest state, a border state in California. She's the only person in this race who prosecuted transnational gangs for human trafficking and drug interventions. But look, we all want to solve this. Most of us want to solve this, and that is the United States Congress. That's the Border Patrol agents. That's the Chamber of Commerce. That's most Americans out here. That's why we had the fairest and the toughest bill on immigration that this nation's seen. It was crafted by a conservative senator from Oklahoma, James Lankford. I know him. He's super conservative, but he's a man of principle, wants to get it done. Democrats and Republicans worked on this piece of legislation. The Border Patrol said, this is what we need in here. These are the experts. And the Chamber of Commerce and the Wall Street Journal said, pass this thing. Kamala Harris helped get there. 1,500 new border agents, detection for drugs, DOJ money to speed up these the adjudications on this, just what America wants. But as soon as I was getting ready to pass and actually tackle this, Donald Trump said no, told them to vote against it because it gives him a campaign issue. It gives him what would Donald Trump talk about if we actually did some of these things? And they need to be done by the legislature. You can't just do this through the executive branch. So look, we have the options to do this. Donald Trump had 4 years. He had 4 years to do this. And he promised you, America, how easy it would be. I'll build you a big, beautiful wall, and Mexico will pay for it. Less than 2% of that wall got built, and Mexico didn't pay a dime. But here we are again, 9 years after he came down that escalator, dehumanizing people and telling them what he was going to do. As far as the deportation plan, at one point, Senator Vance said it was so unworkable to be laughable. So that's where we're at. Pass the bill, she'll sign it.
Governor, your time is up. Senator, the question was, will you separate parents from their children, even if their kids are U.S. citizens? You have 1 minute.
Margaret, my point is that we already have massive child separations thanks to Kamala Harris's open border. And I didn't accuse Kamala Harris of inviting drug mules. I said that she enabled the Mexican drug cartels to operate freely in this country. And we know that they use children as drug mules, and it is a disgrace, and it has to stop. Look, I think what Tim said just doesn't pass the smell test. For 3 years, Kamala Harris went out bragging that she was going to undo Donald Trump's border policy.
This man is cooking. Grab your pots and pans. It's time to cook. Don't forget the spatula. JD is advanced. All I'm saying is this, right? You had Tim Walz talking this, talking that, all that blase, right? This man had to go back 9 years. He time traveled. He went back so back into the past, right? He time traveled and said that Trump 9 years ago did this. We're talking about currently right now. It's under you guys' administration. Don't try to move the goalposts. It's under your guys, which is the Democratic the Democratic democracy, whatever they call it, right? What are y'all doing now towards it? Absolutely nothing. Y'all not preventing anything. Y'all are actually aiding it. It's amplifying, right? So what is Tim Walz talking about? I was so confused. I'm like, can you please just answer the question? You have no base. You have no base. JD Advance, it's time to cook. Time to cook, JD.
Policy. She did exactly that. We had a record number of illegal crossings. We had a record number of fentanyl coming into our country. And now that she's running for president, or a few months before, she says that somehow she got religion and cared a lot about a piece of legislation. The only thing that she did when she became the vice president, when she became the appointed border czar, was to undo 94 Donald Trump executive actions that opened the border. This problem is leading to massive problems in the United States of America. Parents who can't afford health care, schools that are overwhelmed. It's got to stop, and it will when Donald Trump is president again.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, what about our CBS News polling, which does show that a majority of Americans, more than 50%, support mass deportations?
Look, we fix this issue with a bill that is necessary, but the issue on this is what happens when you don't want to solve it. You demonize it. And we saw this, and Senator Vance, and it surprises me on this, talking about and saying, I will create stories to bring attention to this. That vilified a large number of people who were here legally in the community of Springfield. The Republican governor said, it's not true, don't do it. There's consequences for this. There's consequences. We could come together. Senator Langford did it. We could come together and solve this if we didn't let Donald Trump continue to make it an issue. And the consequences in Springfield were the governor had to send.
I'm sick and tired of Mr. Tim Walz, man. Because at the end of the day, all he do is point the finger at Trump. Like, this is under your guys' administration. And I don't see JD Vance saying, totally Kamala, totally this. He's more political. So it's like, Tim Walz, what are you doing? Who sent you? Who sent you? Y'all need to replace this man ASAP.
State law enforcement to escort kindergartners to school. I believe Senator Vance wants to solve this, but by standing with Donald Trump and not working together to find a solution, it becomes a talking point. And when it becomes a talking point like this, we dehumanize and villainize other human beings.
Tim,
Governor, your time is up. Senator, I'll give you 1 minute, but let me just ask you the question first. The governor has made the point, and I think as a sitting lawmaker, you know that Congress controls the purse strings and any funding. So you have said repeatedly that Donald Trump would, through executive action, solve this. Do you disagree that Congress controls the purse strings and would need to support many of the changes that you would actually want to implement? You have 1 minute.
Look, Margaret, first of all, the gross majority of what we need to do at the southern border is just empowering law enforcement to do their job. I've been to the southern border more than our border czar, Kamala Harris, has been, and it's actually heartbreaking because the Border Patrol agents, they just want to be empowered to do their job. Of course, additional resources would help, but most of this is about the president and the vice president empowering our law enforcement to say, if you try to come across the border illegally, you've got to stay in Mexico, you've got to go back through proper channels. Now, Governor Walz brought up the community of Springfield, and he's very worried about the things that I've said in Springfield. Look, in Springfield, Ohio.
Pause. Springfield. Y'all know what's going on in Springfield, right? Y'all know what's going on in Springfield. Eat the dogs. Eat the cats. Eat the dogs. Eat the cats. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat the dog. Eat the cats. Meow. Eat the dogs. Eat the cat. Woof. Eat the dogs. Eat the cats. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat the dogs. Eat the cat. Woof. Eat the dogs. Eat the cats. Meow. Eat the dogs. Eat. That's what's going on in Springfield. Now back to what's really going on.
Ohio and in communities all across this country, you've got schools that are overwhelmed. You've got hospitals that are overwhelmed. You've got housing that is totally unaffordable because we brought in millions of illegal.
You know what else is overwhelmed, JD? The dogs and the animal society is overwhelmed because they're trying to eat the dogs, eat the cats. They eat the dogs, eat, meow, eat the dog, eat the cat, woof, eat the dog, eat. They're trying to eat the dog. They're trying to eat the cats, eat the dog, eat, meow, eat the dog, eat the cats, eat the dog. They're trying to eat meow. Y'all have the floor, JD. You have the floor.
Immigrants to compete with Americans for scarce homes. The people that I'm most worried about in Springfield, Ohio, are the American citizens who have had their lives destroyed by Kamala Harris's open border. It is a disgrace, Tim. And I actually think, I agree with you. I think you want to solve this problem, but I don't think that Kamala Harris does.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, you have 1 minute to respond.
Yeah, well, it is law enforcement that asked for the bill. They helped craft it. They're the ones that supported it. That's because they know we need to do this. Look, this issue of continuing to bring this up, of not dealing with it, of blaming migrants for everything. On housing, we could talk a little bit about Wall Street speculators buying up housing and making them less affordable, but it becomes a blame. Look, this bill also gives the money necessary to adjudicate. I agree. It should not take 7 years for an asylum claim to be done. This bill gets it done in 90 days. Then you start to make a difference in this, and you start to adhere to what we know, American principles. I don't talk about my faith a lot, but Matthew 25:40 talks about, to the least amongst us, you do unto me. I think that's true of most Americans.
Oh my God. When they start to put God in this situation, man, I don't know who they serve, right? Because now he's trying to, I don't talk to my religion a lot. Now you're trying to pull the religious people. I told y'all what I thought about religion. The schools and the churches. Y'all see what's going on, the schools and the churches. Over with. It's over with. You want to know why? Because religion has been, let's just say, derailed by money, by a certain group, by the LGBTQ LMNOPs, highly infiltrated. So please leave religion and leave God out of this, because he has nothing to do with this one. He has absolutely nothing to do with this. This right here is demonic. Let's just be real. This right here is demonic. So can you leave God out of this? Let this man live free. He don't have nothing to do with this one.
Simply want order to it. This bill does it. It's funded. It's supported by the people who do it. And it lets us keep our dignity about how we treat other people.
Thank you, Governor. And just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you,
Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important
we're
because
going to turn out of the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
the rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me,
yes,
I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the.
That's what I'm talking about. Dominate the arena, JD. Dominate the arena. They're not playing by the rules. You're supposed to answer the question, and you're supposed to get time to re-answer it, right? Dominate the arena. What he just did right there was ultra super dominant. Thank you. Now what he just did was shut down Tim Walz and shut down ABC. Smash that like button if you agree. Tell a friend and tell a friend. Hold on. Wait a minute. Before y'all move this goalpost, let me answer the question. Let me really answer the question. JD, you like that, JD. That's all I'm going to say. JD advance. Let me repeat. JD advance.
CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own
Thank you, Senator, for
leadership.
describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The
we
CBP
want to have
One app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut. We have so much we want to get to. Thank you.
Because the mics are cut. The mic's supposed to have been cut. What are y'all talking about? This mic's supposed to have been cut. Y'all not playing by the rules. You know what? I'm going to leave the link down below. I got to go. They're not playing by the rules. We just caught them. We just bagged them. Y'all see what's going on. Run this back again. Y'all see exactly what's going on. How can you have freedom of speech when every time you're trying to speak, they're trying to imprison you? My God, smash that like button, tell a friend and tell a friend. This is the beginning. This is not the end. Another episode of the Healthy Discussion Show. And let me know who y'all think won on this one. JD Vance versus Tim Walz. Do y'all have JD Vance, or do y'all have Tim Walz, or JD Advance and Tim Walz? On that note, peace, blessings, and love. Tell a friend and tell a friend. This is the beginning. This is not the end. Heidi, let me read a comment. Heidi Walz said, I wish he bought up the suspension of the DNA testing. Facts. Heidi Wall. I wish he brought that up too. This is why. Because y'all know the court system is designed to emasculate men, right? Let me get into something real quick. So with the DNA testing thing, that would eliminate a lot of baby mothers and everybody else getting away with crime on saying sticking people with the child, not knowing that it's not their child. So you can eliminate all these paternity tests. You can actually say, look, it's a law that's required to say, look, in order for this guy to financially support this child, you need a DNA test beforehand, not afterwards. But that's it. Aha, I figured it out. I'm Haiti Wall. I figured it out. This is what I figured out. Did you know, I'm going to leave you with a fact. Did you know that for every dollar that they pay in child support, do you know 50 cents goes to the circuit? It goes to the judge. It goes to the police officers. It goes to the whole system. So the question will be, why would they update these laws? If they update these laws, courts will be no longer, because the money, follow the money. See, the money don't lie. If they upgrade these laws, then guess what? The courts won't get paid. The lawyers won't have a high salary. The judge won't have a high salary, because they're literally taking money from the man and then imprisoning them if they don't pay to get more money. So you understand how the snake ate his tail on this one? This is the circle of life, or the circle of the court system. That's why they won't update the family court laws, because if they really cared about family, they would have done it. They understand that they're trying to destroy family, because if you destroy family, it's beneficial to plenty of people. Let me repeat. It's beneficial to plenty of people if you don't have a man in the household. So therefore, it's beneficial to plenty of people if the man is actually, right, incarcerated, and or the woman is incentivized on taking the whole family dynamics down. So I say, aha, I see why they won't change it, because if they change it, their whole life will change. Let me repeat. If they actually update the family court laws, their entire life will change. And now they need to update it, because you know how many people are taking care of kids that's not theirs? And guess what? They also need to have a law to say, if I'm taking care of kids that's not mine, and I found out it's not mine, right? Shouldn't I, as a man, be incentivized, or at least just say, if I invested $100,000, $200,000 in a kid, shouldn't I be able to get that back? The answer is no. So until the laws change, right? It's just talk. It's fluff. They're not going to change it, because if they change it, the world will change. Let me repeat. If they change it, the world will change. They're pushing womanism, LGBTQ, LMNOP. So that's what they want to happen, to cripple the family structure. And we as people, we can't let that happen, because without family, you have nothing. Without family, you have absolutely nothing. It's disastrous that comes after that. So that's why they're trying to do it. So just to answer your question, I hope that answered your question. I'm Haiti Walz. I hope that answered your question. I appreciate you coming through. Appreciate it. On that note, peace, blessings, and love. I gotta go.